Hello, I'm Annie Sloan and I want to talk about colour. So this is a new series and we're going to talk about lots and lots of areas. First of all, a little bit of history, a little bit about why my colours are what I do, and a little bit about how you can make it work for you and how you can style your home with just a little bit of knowledge. Each time I do one, it will be one little aspect that will help you understand colour. So the first question is, why is colour so important? I think for everybody, you know when you're feeling good about things and when you're not feeling good about things, and maybe it's something to do with whether you're wearing some jolly clothes, something like this. And I don't mean that colour has to be lots and lots of colour. It doesn't. It can be whites, it can be greys, but I do think with your greys, with your whites, with your blacks, you need a little pop of something else. Or you can have lots of colour. You can have lots of colour, you can have lots of pattern. But what it needs is something which is exciting and beautiful. It's just the same as food, it's just the same as music. If it's the same tone all the time, it's rather dull. If it's the same food all the time, it's not very exciting. It's not going to make you feel good. I also think that colour, because the different colours give off different, you see them at different ways, and the light affects them in different ways. So in your house, you need particular colours. And I know for me in my house, different houses I've lived in, one house, I couldn't use certain colours. It just looked wrong. I couldn't use green in that house. It just looked wrong. The light obviously didn't quite play right. And in the house I'm in now, pink I'm finding is quite difficult. I'm not sure why, but it needs certain colours. It must be to do with the light and the way it's all playing. So these are aspects, and I think also you need to learn to trust your gut. You know when you're buying clothes, you buy something and you think, I like that, it suits me. There's probably a science to it, but really it is an art, and you have to learn that does work, that doesn't work. If you are very nervous of colour, embrace that, love it. You love beiges, you love greys, you love whites, fine. But learn to bring in a little bit of something else. You don't have to go mad, you don't have to go with bright reds and bright greens and bright yellows. You can go in softly with pastels and what have you. So if we can start, for me, where I started with my journey of colour, I started by, I suppose, having a father who wasn't scared of colour, and so it introduced to me the idea of colour. He used to talk about colour a lot, and so in terms of paintings and the rooms and the fabrics we use, he was interested in all of those things. And so that's where I probably started. And then, of course, I went to art school and I learned a little bit more about colour. And then throughout life, I've done all sorts of things, and I've written a book about colour. This book here that I wrote, which has got different covers in different places. Colour and decoration, that actually taught me a lot, because I learned to think about colour and work with colour, and I had to look at a lot of photographs, and that taught me a lot. I also worked for a lot of people who I did interior design for, and when I worked with them, they would say, I want this sort of colours, I want that sort of colours. So I had to learn a lot about colours that I didn't feel naturally good with, but I had to work with. So those things have taught me about colour. There is a science to it all, and that is something that I talk a lot about I've done a series for Create Academy, some videos with Create Academy which you can watch, where I've approached it there quite scientifically, and you can listen to those there and watch that, and I think that will give you a different aspect to what I'm talking about now. This is a huge subject, so we can't do it all in one, so lots of different ways to approach it, and I have got a lot to tell you. So these are all my colours now, and I'm sure I'll be changing and adding along the way. these are my colours now. So I've got chalk paint, satin paint and wall paint. But of course I started with chalk paint. And why and where did I start with chalk paint? I started first from the idea of being an artist. I was a painter and I was looking at artist colours because that's what I used. And so I was thinking of my colours as being artist colours, that not like household paint, but artist colours. So that's what my colours were and are. They are sort of artist colours. So so that's like a vermilion or a cadmium red. That is like a Prussian blue, or the Napoleonic is like ultramarine, and so it goes on. So those were where I started, and because of that, I don't put black in my chalk paint, because they are meant to be like artist colour, and artist colours don't have black, and you can mix them and make the colours you want. I also wanted to have the cleanest and the purest ways, slightly changed, but more or less clean, clear colours. And you can always dull a colour, but you can't make a colour bright. So if I was to give you lots and lots of whites, then you would not ever be able to make a strong colour. So that was the idea of making strong colours, which you can then lighten, which I'll talk about later. So all these colours are like artist colours, so that you can mix them. I don't have black in them, as I mentioned, because artist colours don't. If you do have black in them, when you mix, say, a red with a blue to make a purple, say, if you've got red with black in it and blue with black in it, when you make your purple, it will be quite dulled down. So if you had a blue and a yellow the yellow had black in it and the blue had black in it, when you mix it to make your green, it will be a dirty green. If you want it to be clean and really, really fresh, then it mustn't have black in it. Then you can later on do it, but you've got control. You can add black to it later if you want, or you can add the complementary, and that is the trick to what I do. As I say, there's more of that on the Create Academy video. So that is those colours. Later on, I've added my wall colours and my satin colours, which come out from those and work with those. They're not another range altogether. So you would have a piece of painted furniture, possibly painted in the chalk paint. You would have something, maybe satin paint, and the wall paint behind it. Everything working together. These ones are not meant to be mixed, but they still have that cleanness behind them, and so they work together. One thing though, that when you make a paint in chalk, it's very, very matte. So that is the chalk there. It's very matte. That's when it has wax added to it, because you put wax over the chalk paint. So they have a certain sort of finish. This is the same colour all along, but when you've got it in wall paint or in satin paint, the finish is slightly different. You'll know that from clothes. So this is linen, but if this was silk, the look would be very different. So the silk would be a little bit more shiny, or quite a lot more shiny. And this is linen, so it's really quite flat. But they could be the same colour, but they would look different. And so it is the same for paint. So that's the satin. It's got a slight sheen to it. That's the wax finish, which is really quite flat looking, and not flat, but it's a matte. It's a different look. It's hard to explain. Mellow, I suppose, is the way I generally say. And that's the wall paint. All the same colour, but all looking slightly different. It shows up particularly with dark colours, but it's the same in the light colour as well. So when I've talked about these different finishes and the different colours, although you might have one colour in different finishes, this is what gives your home tremendous dimension. It gives it depth. It doesn't make it the same. So this series will carry on with telling you how to use colour in lots of different ways. How to use blues, for instance, how to use greens, how to put them together. It's about how to help you learn and use colour in your home, and I'll be tackling a subject every time.